Liz, you have a doctoral degree, correct?
Absolutely, I do.
Do you happen to recall the title of your dissertation?
Yes, I do. Student Self-Efficacy in High School Mathematics, a cross-case analysis.
Ooh, it sounds like a page-turner.
You haven't read it yet?
I don't have one, but if I did, do you know what the title would be?
I have no idea.
Are you on the edge of your seat?
I am.
All right, here you go. The Enshittification Chronicles, From Value to Vice in Social Media Platforms.
I'm not sure that all our listeners will understand what enshittification is. Do you want to elaborate?
Well, no, not yet, but I propose that we all stick around and we'll find out together.
All right.
I'm Matt Mervis.
And I'm Liz Radday.
And this is ChatEDU, a podcast about AI in K-12 education. In today's episode, Micro Update, Major Menace will explore the likely negative impact on students and really all of us as a major AI company tests advertising embedded in its AI chatbot.
But first, in the news, Matt will share new research on AI content detectors with some support from Abbott Elementary.
Liz will review a cool new AI-powered exhibit featuring World War II veterans.
Then Matt will explore some new developments in holographics and how AI might change the way we interact with devices.
And finally, Liz will examine a big new AI assessment announcement from the Program for International Student Assessment, or PISA. Then we'll go beneath the surface as we examine an underreported, but at the same time, enormously important story about the business models of AI and how they will likely impact students, families, communities, and schools.
And we'll end with a new listener question and our new pal 11 Labs in chatback. Wait, new pal 11 Labs? Matt, what's up with that?
Well, even though you and I can hang out all the time, sometimes you need to spice up your friend group. And so we're giving Pi just a little pause and bringing in 11 Labs because the voices are so good.
All right, we'll try it.
It's actually going to be two new friends because there's going to be the AI bot Claude in companionship with 11 Labs. We have so many new friends, Liz.
Can't wait. So, Matt, recently I saw an episode of one of my favorite shows, Abbott Elementary, and I even texted you while I was watching to see if you had watched it.
I had not. I know the show. I'm sort of familiar with the characters, but I don't know the ins and outs. So catch me up.
Okay, so the show is about a group of teachers in a Philadelphia elementary school. And so in this episode, one of the teachers had sent some emails to colleagues that he wanted feedback on. And he was reading the feedback. Then he put the responses through an AI detector.
Really?
And found out that his colleagues had generated their responses to him with AI, and he was very disappointed.
Oh, that's so wrong.
Yeah, he was really upset. So as I was watching this episode, I was like, yay, they're talking about AI, but oh, the way that they're using that AI detector and saying that it's accurate. And Jacob, the character, was so mad at his friends, and it just didn't even address the idea that these detectors aren't always accurate. And I was like, oh, that's giving such a false idea that you can just put any text into an AI detector and it'll tell you what % was generated by AI. And it just isn't that simple.
Yeah, it's funny. Your text to me, I was like, oh, that's cool that they're talking about AI. And then we didn't really go beyond that. But a day or so later, I saw a post from Timnit Gebru, who's a really fascinating and super important AI scientist and researcher. She wrote on LinkedIn, and I quote, "I was so disappointed to see an episode of Abbott Elementary, which assumed that tools purporting to detect AI-generated text work 100%, especially given the number of students wrongfully accused of using ChatGPT because of these tools." End quote. And she's absolutely right. This is a real challenge, and we're seeing a massive erosion of trust. I mean, I'm not saying it's a simple problem. We're going to dig into this, but it is tricky. Real quickly, Timnit Gebru is worth doing a little more investigation around. There was a wonderful article in the New York Times written by Cade Metz called "Who is Making Sure the AI Machines Aren't Racist?" And it was about the unceremonious departure or really firing of Timnit from Google, and she was on a team really leading up AI ethics.
Yeah, we've known for a while that these detectors are not perfect. Washington Post last June did a piece noting that 50% of the samples were at least partially wrong. The Guardian did a story showing an even higher percentage of false reports for ELL students. We use a slide showing the U.S. Constitution was scored 96% likely to have been written by AI. And a new study has shown that when students manipulate the output output, like putting in purposeful spelling errors or having the prompt alter the output for a struggling writer, the performance drops another 22%.
And don't get us wrong. I mean, cheating is as old as time, but we don't delight sharing the information that the detectors don't work, nor does anyone who's an advocate or really just helping schools navigate this space. None of these teachers asked for ChatGPT to be invented and to massively accelerate the academic integrity challenges that might already be in place. So yes, it would be lovely if a technology fix came along that dealt with a technology challenge that no one asked for, but that's simply not the state of play.
Yeah, we've done a lot of presentations and teachers have asked about AI detectors and if they exist and if they should use them. And we have been very adamant about saying that this alone cannot be evidence that a student used AI to write their essays. It has been an uphill battle getting educators to understand the limitations of detectors. And while I love Abbott Elementary, these kinds of storylines in pop culture shows don't help. So, Matt, we've made this great connection over LinkedIn with Barbara Zelanka over in Norway, and she has a wonderful blog called AI Advisory Boards. And we'll talk more about her in some other episodes because she's doing some really great work curating all this information about generative AI and the impact on schools. But recently, she posted a report from the Center for Democracy and Technology titled Up in the Air, Educators Juggling the Potential of AI with Detection, Discipline, and Distrust. And she explores the complexity educators face with the integration of generative AI in the classroom. That reported 4 key findings regarding the state of play for academic integrity and AI. Want to know what those are?
I do.
Progress in training and policies, challenges with AI detection tools, rise in disciplinary actions, and distrust in academic integrity.
Yeah, I think that checks out. I mean, if we look at our corner of the world in the Northeast, we're seeing the same kind of things. It's nice to see that a lot of the school districts are moving forward with training, and whether we call it a policy or a framework for implementation or guideposts, all those are making progress. But it is a fast-moving area, and we're honestly inspired by a lot of the real-time creative problem solving that teachers are doing at the classroom level to deal with the quote-unquote academic integrity challenges. So we've been curating our own kind of greatest hit lists of things that teachers can and teachers are reporting that they are doing to help deal with this issue beyond detectors.
So do you want to talk about some of those?
I would love to. So I'm going to do a couple, you do a couple, and we'll just go back and forth. I think one of the most helpful is just get familiar with the types of outputs that a chatbot will create. So if I've got a prompt and I want to get oriented to the way that I might look for how students would use it, is put the prompt in and get familiar with the style of writing that comes out of these various bots. Getting more complex because ChatGPT is a different type of a writer that, Anthropic's Claude is. Ooh, Claude writes so nicely. It's remarkable. All right. I digress. Another big one is just getting clear on drafts of student work. I mean, forever we've realized that it's helpful to have multiple drafts of student work to see students' writing progress over time. And so as teachers are deploying that, again, as a strategy, it's a nice way to make sure the kids aren't just dropping in the cell mitosis essay. There is a nice little tech tool I've seen here too called DraftBack. It's an extension where you can watch a video of the student writing. So if suddenly there's a video where 900 words drop in, you go, something might be up.
That is a good way. We've talked about using rubrics so that they require a student to use quotes or citations. We know that ChatGPT and other generative AI models don't do a great job of quoting and citing their work. So if you require students to do that, makes them go and do the work.
And they've come to know this pretty quickly, too. They're like, it doesn't quote well, and the citations are always hallucinated. So they know that they need to deal with that more authentically. And then I think the big chunk is really just more authentic work, right? I mean, there's an opportunity for students to do some personal reflections in their writing. That's helpful. But oral presentations, field work, having kids do photos and interviews or other types of mixed assessments beyond just a straight writing assignment. And for 2 decades, our Skills 21 team here at Advance, the Regional Education Service Center, has been doing project-based learning with schools, with teachers, with students. And we know the depth of learning is remarkable. And no chatbot is going to do an engaging project for a student. And so, thinking of really mixing up the assessments beyond these writing assignments, especially outside of class, can be remarkable practices.
I love it. But I don't want to throw cold water on your greatest hits, but it is challenging how fast this space is moving. So listen to this. The good folks from ByteDance who brought us TikTok.
Oh, yeah. I love TikTok.
Yeah. Well, they have a new app called Goth, which is basically photo math for every assignment ever created. Can you imagine? TikTok is about to get kicked off the US App Store. They are in trouble. And instead of doing something to prevent that, they create another app that leverages the camera, location, and tells us how smart or not every kid in the United States is.
Seriously?
Yeah, that's the direction it's going.
Ooh, that's a bold move. If anything will get you kicked out of Congress. Is that goth like dark hair, dark eyebrows, dark eyeliner?
Well, it's spelled differently, but I'm not sure.
It has the same effect. Yes, that does throw cold water on some of these more written-based assignments, drafts of work, focusing the rubrics, personal reflections. But still, I'm going to hold firm here, no goth or photo math or even ChatGPT at Vision is going to take a picture and do a multi-step, interesting, engaging, authentic student project, especially one that's oriented out of their own agency and interest. So yes, goth, fine. It's especially interesting because we've talked about this in previous episodes, but the skills that students develop as they do these types of hands-on projects are the skills that we know students are going to need in a world of AI. Human-to-human collaboration, problem-solving, creativity, agency, social-emotional efficacy, all that kind of stuff. So, all right, officially stepping down off soapbox.
But I am going to write a book about it.
That's right, you are. What's that book title? Is it shorter or longer than your dissertation?
It will be shorter.
All right, that was a chunky first story, so let's keep rolling. So now that we're 8 episodes in, some very clear themes are emerging about our own curation of AI news on the ChatEDU pod. We focused on AI vision and holographic Marilyn Monroe and, that school of AI with VR. It's clear that we believe that AI is a significant development that goes beyond the chatbot, even though the previous story is pretty much all about text in, text out, and the chatbot. So these next few stories are good examples. Tell us first about Voices from the Front, this new exhibit from the National World War II Museum in New Orleans.
Matt, I just read this article about the National World War II Museum in New Orleans. That's how you pronounce it.
Ouch.
And they launched an innovative exhibit titled Voices from the Front, which utilizes artificial intelligence to allow visitors to interactively communicate with World War II vets. So it has these life-size video recordings of 18 veterans and home front workers, made possible by a $1.5 million donation and some sophisticated AI tech. This technology indexes veterans' memories and answers visitors' questions using voice recognition. So it offers a new way for people to engage and preserve the really rapidly diminishing firsthand accounts of World War II. So right now, there's less than 1% of World War II veterans that are still alive, and they estimate that 131 World War II vets die daily. So having a really cool way to preserve these memories is really important, and also is going to be a great way for younger generations to engage with these memories.
Yeah, such a good example. I know in episode 6, we talked about a holographic Marilyn Monroe. And, at some level, we're sitting here scratching our head going, well, where's the educational value in that? Although that was followed by the School of AI example from Engage XR, which had lots of historical figures. But how neat is this, right? The ability, and I assume like those other models that we've talked about, you can just have these super fluid real-time conversations with the vets, and they'll tell you about their lives and their experiences and the war itself.
Yeah, I'm guessing that a next direction for this can be Holocaust survivors as well.
Oh my God, how powerful.
Really interesting ways to take this technology and use it in a way that's preserving history. All right, well, let's keep this theme going with respect to new interfaces for interacting with an AI-powered digital world and the potential for holographics that pop up off your phone.
Yes, exactly. Rather than a video-based interaction with an AI character, and these are not full working models yet, but holographics is the next really interesting space. And holographics is hard and expensive and slightly dangerous, right? There's a lot of kind of lasers that are involved in the use of holographics. A group of researchers from the University of Tokyo have made significant advancements in the creation of 3D holographic displays using an iPhone screen. They're literally using like an iPhone 14 and figuring out how they can bring holographics to emit straight up from the phone.
That's so crazy.
One of the lead researchers shared, although holographic techniques can create very real-looking 3D representations of objects, traditional approaches aren't practical because they rely on laser sources. This breakthrough represents a significant step forward in making holographic technology more accessible and practical for everyday use and specialized applications alike. So Liz, holographics aren't here yet, but all sorts of ways that we might interact with the new digital world with AI are here. Some are working, some aren't. The humane pin, which is this little brooch, it looks like my grandmother used to wear. It's about that size. I mean, it doesn't look like it, but it's about that size. You tap on it, it displays stuff onto your hand, like the digital display. You talk to it. It was an opportunity to try to use AI as a conversational tapping device. I can't even really describe it. It's been sort of panned. It just came out and all the reviews have come out. But there's a number of things emerging. There's this great little tool called the Rabbit R1. My favorite that I heard recently are these nothing earbuds where you squeeze them and ChatGPT is launched. So you can just have a real-time conversation with ChatGPT. There's also a new pin that's much smaller. My grandma would not have worn it. It was too small. It wasn't flashy enough. Called the Limitless Pin. And that's basically recording everything that you hear and say over the course of a day, a week, a month, and then it uses all that unstructured data and AI to make meaning out of all that it heard.
So what does it do with all that data?
Liz, use your imagination. You've got all this data, right? I mean, if we could have taken the podcast recording that we did today, then the next meeting that we go into with our boss, Jonathan, then the meeting we have with Cam, then the next 4 meetings that we have, and we say, summarize all the action items. Can you think of the number of times as a team we're like, boy, did we do that? I don't remember if we did that. Did we build that feature in our research software? I don't know. If the Limitless Pin was recording everything we did, we could just query it and it would give us all the intelligence of how brilliant we are.
Okay, that makes sense for business, but in my daily interactions, it's going to record every conversation I have with my mom.
Yes, it's going to record every conversation with your mom, also your daughters. And so you'll say, there are days you come in and you're like, oh my God, my girls are making me crazy. So you'll type into the little UI and say, tell me all the nice things that my girls said to me over the last week.
And it will go finds nothing and spins. Then what?
Searching. All right, but doesn't this remind you of that expo project that the kids worked on? We used to do this STEM competition, like pitch competition. And I think we saw something like this.
Yeah, the kids, I think they were making glasses to record everything because they did want to have these digital recordings that I actually think it was a project for maybe people with Alzheimer's or some sort of memory issue to be able to access the information they had gained throughout the day or week.
Right. Those kids were ahead of the time. And it's funny you mentioned the glasses because the other new kind of user interface out there are the Meta glasses where they don't quite have vision fully blown in, but you can talk to the Meta AI in the sort of stem of the glasses. You can hear things. And I'm sure over time there's going to be overlays where it will show you things that are kind of AR, but also you can look at stuff and it will use AI vision to give you information. I mean, we're getting kind of into sci-fi zone. But so whether it's these two different kinds of brooches or the rabbit or the glasses, I mean, ultimately AI is pushing us into new types of user interfaces, which I love. I mean, just think about, we spend so much time hunched over our phones tapping on a piece of glass. And I know for both of us, we have literally leaned back and stood up straight, having real-time conversations that are hands-free with Pi. I would say that Pi has taken 5%, 7% of my digital hunching over the phone and just made it a thoughtful, interesting, fluid, real-time conversation where there is a new user interface that, frankly, I like a whole lot more because of AI.
It's all moving very fast and it's really cool, but when you're talking about these new devices, I got to say, what about privacy?
Yeah, 1,000%. Privacy is going to be a major consideration. I'm sure there will be opt-in. There will be data protections. Some of this, Apple's doing a lot of work with this right now, where the AI is going to be localized on the phone and not in the servers. I don't know how you're going to do that in a brooch or a pair of glasses because it's just a lot of data in a small space. But yeah, you're absolutely right. There will be privacy implications. And then there'll be people like you and me. They're like, have at it, people. You can have every bit of information you want from me as long as you make my life easier. Find something nice that my girl said about me.
Yeah, good luck.
Okay, finally in the news, Liz, there's a pretty interesting announcement from PISA. We know that assessment often drives the entire schooling enterprise, for better or worse. Sometimes it's like the tail wagging the dog. So what have the good folks from the Program for International Student Assessment cooked up?
So just a minute on PISA. So this is the assessment that actually a few years ago is what shot Finland to the top of the world.
Oh.
That was the assessment that everybody was touting that made Finland like the number one place for education.
You have a thing with Finland, don't you?
I do have a little bit of a thing with Finland, and that is why in 2016 I did a Fulbright to Finland. But it is a very well-known assessment that is used around the world, where kids take this assessment every 3 years, and it is used to compare education systems. They are actually planning to implement some AI tech to evaluate how students learn and solve problems. So Andreas Schleicher of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD, who administers this test, announced the shift, highlighting that these new AI-driven performance tasks aim to provide a more dynamic assessment of critical thinking and problem-solving skills.
So like AI in the actual assessment?
That's what they're saying. So that students can use AI to solve problems, because what the PISA really wants to know is, how do kids solve problems? And by 2025, another year from now, the answer is they use AI to solve problems. So it's got to be part of the test, which is really exciting. PISA is known to be pretty forward-thinking, so putting AI in is not really a surprise to me, but it's a great step.
Yeah, there's almost two camps out there. It's like we need to be super, super conservative and cautious about it, which I think makes sense. And then there's it is a literacy that all kids need to know and be able to do. So we need to figure out, if nothing else, we need to figure out how to prepare them. And it seems like this is a good way of doing that. Plus, I got to imagine, a little bit like that teacher preparation story we covered in the end of the last episode in Chatback, these chatbots can create some really engaging scenarios, and AI can help drive the assessment. So I don't know that it's only just a preparation thing. It feels like the AI might really lift some of the more dynamic, hands-on, authentic nature of the assessment, and also yield a whole lot of data.
Yeah, one of the interesting things that Andreas Schleicher said was that I think one of the greatest mistakes that we have made in the history of education is to divorce learning from assessment. And this brings the two together in a really important way in a test that is so well known across the globe. All right, Matt, it's time to go beneath the surface and unpack the important connection between how AI companies and big tech plan to shift from just spending money to actually making money.
And spending money they are.
Yeah, I know.
It's crazy. Dario Amodei, who is the co-founder and CEO of Anthropic, the folks that do the Claude model, was on the Ezra Klein show a couple weeks ago now. And he talked about how these frontier models, which is the term for all the leading models, right? Gemini, ChatGPT, et cetera, it's going to be $1 billion to build one of these things in the next few years, and then tens of billions of dollars. In fact, OpenAI and Microsoft are building this thing called Stargate, which is a massive data center. They're planning to spend $100 billion in 2028. So they got to start making that money back.
Wait, is Stargate going to be an actual physical building you could go work at?
Dun, dun, dun.
That is totally where I want to work.
Are you applying?
I want to work at Stargate.
Right. Well, tell them you were a Fulbright in Finland.
I will. So what about our $20 a month for ChatGPT? Isn't that making them some money?
Yes, that is an actual thing. And OpenAI has said that they will make around $1 billion in subscription and enterprise deals this coming year. So it is part of the model. And that is the heart of the question here. So folks like Sam Altman, who is the CEO of OpenAI, the folks that brought us ChatGPT, or Mustafa Suleyman, who did Hey Pi and now works for Microsoft, I've seen them both in multiple interviews where they talk about the importance of a subscription model. And it's interesting, Google, which has made all of its money off of advertising, had a small announcement that they were going to do some paid content for some of their generative AI searches. So a really different bit. But the thing that caught my attention is really the headline of the Beneath the Surface and this episode is perplexity. So Liz and I have been kind of in love with perplexity. We have a lot of love for these different AI models. I think we need to really think about that. Nonetheless, class. It's been a really easy tool to use in training because there's no login required. It's very powerful. It's sort of a mashup between Google and a ChatGPT.
We've really loved Perplexity, but one thing I've noticed is that they place links around the chat results, and teachers keep observing that some of those links seem like they're sponsored or that they take them to a paid or commercial service.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. So it's not surprising that Perplexity announced they're going to test the placement of ads around their generative AI results.
All right, well, Google has done that forever, and you noted that, so what's the big deal?
Well, think about the fact that social media is based on advertising and how much, right, exactly, how much they have engineered the news feed to grab our attention in sometimes very unhealthy ways for both kids and adults. And everything suggests that generative AI, if we think social media was good at gluing us to our screens, generative AI is like a 10x or 100x potential to really make these compelling, because it's such a human-like experience and you feel like you're talking to someone. I mean, think about all the times we've used the word love in relation to these things, anthropomorphizing the AI. We talked briefly about this tool called Replica. I mean, this is a model where people are divorcing their own spouses to marry their replicas. So these are highly engaging tools. And if you put them in an advertising-based environment that's incented to have you focused on the screen or on the piece of glass, that could be a problem.
Well, here's another example. What if we could use generative AI to disabuse someone of believing a conspiracy theory?
Is that possible?
Well, a recent study demonstrated that it could be possible.
That's powerful.
Another study also showed how a bot can win in a debate against a human, especially if it knows something about that human. So they're pretty convincing.
No bot could disabuse you of the various conspiracy theories that you hold or win in a debate, I just want to say.
Well, that's true.
So much of this will come down, Liz, to subscription versus advertising. You can imagine when you pay for the service, it's aligned and will bend to your interest and your will. So if my bot, let's say Pi was a paid service and it got to know me well. Right now, they don't have this capacity, right? But over time, the context windows get longer. They have memory features that we've talked about a couple episodes ago. So the bot knows me well, and it knows that my prime objective is to be outside more and to hang with my friends. The bot will really help me get those things done. It will be in service to my wants and aims. If the business model is advertising, its goal is to keep me glued to the screen, to never be with my friends, to never be outside. So it's critical. It's so helpful that we have this frame of reference for social media, but it's critical that we really kind of make note of this, make it a marker on the field right now.
So is Perplexity the crack in the dam?
Possibly, although they also run a subscription model. They're experimenting with both. It's a great time for us to pay attention and run through the knock-on effects in a way that we did not do with social media.
This reminds me of a term I heard in an interview with Ethan Mollick. Whew, I was worried we might not reference him in a pod.
His book, by the way, I just finished, fantastic, and now a New York Times bestseller.
I saw that this morning.
Yeah.
So he references the process by which a platform provides value to the user and slowly shifts the value from the user to, in this example, the advertiser.
Yes, this is coined by the journalist, blogger, and all-around big thinker, like literally big thinker, Cory Doctorow. And the term is...
enshittification!
Yes. All the meta platforms would be great examples of enshittification. And who is aggressively pushing AI in all their platforms? Have you been on Instagram the last couple days?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, click the search box and you're going to see the Meta AI pop up. And let me tell you, this thing is good. It is like the ChatGPT equivalent or Bing or Gemini, but it's sitting there right inside Instagram, right inside WhatsApp, and right inside Facebook. It's fast. It's clean, and it's remarkable, actually, how fast it is, and it's doing a very good job with image generation. Like the images are almost there as soon as you click. So, but here's Instagram, or the Meta empire, and their entire business model is based on advertising. We know that AI could be this remarkably compelling interface, and now it's sitting inside all of these applications. And so the consequence could not just be us hunched over our phones for longer periods of time, but also these well-documented negative effects on our kids, our collective mental health, our politics, and our culture. It could be worse.
What could be worse? Oh, I know. WALL-E.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. We're moving towards WALL-E if it's an advertising-based model. Look, we could be wrong here, but I think it's important to be clear about what the consequences might be.
All right, Matt. So I get the problem. And clearly raising the red flag is important, but what's the next step for schools?
It comes down to critical thinking as a superpower, but that doesn't just happen on its own. And having social media as a reference point, we can think about what folks are doing in this space.
Well, right here at EdAdvance, we've been implementing a social media literacy curriculum as part of a federal mental health grant. And so in that curriculum, the students and teachers do several activities to raise awareness and cultivate critical thinking. As an example for our listeners, here's a clip from a video schools use to explore essentially enshittification, or in this case, the role algorithms play in drawing young people into social media and keeping them there.
One of the best things about social media is that it's free, right? There's no monthly cost or even a fee to sign up. But why is that? If social media platforms are worth billions and billions of dollars, how are they getting that money? It's because we're not the customers of social media. Advertisers are. Then what is the product? What are the advertisers buying? Us. Our time, our attention, and our data. How do they do that? Algorithms. Algorithms on social media work like a flowchart. When we tap on one thing, the algorithm queues up what should come next. And next, and next, and next. None of it is random. It's all calculated and purposeful so that algorithms can get you to spend as much time as possible on social media.
So that clip was just the start of what then becomes an activity where, as a class, they use a dummy email to sign up for a social media account as the class chooses. And as a class experiment, they like and follow and comment and subscribe to various content, and then they watch what happens and watch what they continue to see on this account. And the kids become very aware that their attention is the product. And so when you put it in their face like that, they really are becoming critical thinkers. What the students are telling us is that by making them aware of this through the social balance curriculum, they really are thinking more about their social media use. And that was really our intention and our hope for providing this curriculum for schools.
I love that example. And it's interesting because it's both in their face, but also in their hands, right? They have some agency. They're really learning. It's not finger wagging and saying, no, no, no. It's really empowering them to make smart decisions and understand what's behind these platforms. And at some level, that's what we're going to have to do when AI is in the mix as well. It's so helpful that we now have this shared experience with social media. There is really a public consciousness around it. And in the same respect, not all of us, but many have quickly become aware of some of the limitations of AI, hallucinations, deep fakes, bias, and raising awareness around business model risks and the role of advertising should become part of that mix.
So in our Beneath the Surface section, we try to share a short list of focus areas for teachers and school leaders to think about.
The first is certainly incorporating AI literacy into the curriculum, teaching students about different AI technologies, also business models, literally becoming aware of the difference between a subscription model and an advertising model and the consequences.
And we also encourage them to develop critical thinking and media literacy. So equipping students with the skills to critically analyze the information they receive from AI-driven platforms, recognizing biases, and spotting and understanding persuasive techniques used by advertising-driven models is all really important.
Third, we want to promote ethical discussions about technology, create opportunities for students to discuss the ethical implications of AI, including privacy, data security, and the long-term societal effects.
And we definitely want to encourage hands-on experience with AI. The kids have to experiment with AI tools and platforms in a controlled and educational setting to learn about all of this.
Yeah, just like they did in the social balance. I mean, it's so cool that they actually create an account and they watch the effects of the algorithm in action. And finally, educate parents and the community about the potential impacts of AI on youth, and schools can be a great forum to do that.
Matt, that was a lot of business insights and a lot of information, and hopefully we learned something about education and the implications for enshittification. All right, Matt, it's time for Chat Back, where we answer a question submitted online by email or a question we've heard out in the field. First, we will chime in, and then we phone our AI friend. In this case, we'll hear from Lee from Australia via 11 Labs AI. And Lee is taking his insights from the Claude large language model.
Whoa, that's a lot of stuff going on, but I'm looking forward to hearing from everybody. Lee? Okay, let's see. I'm psyched. So yes, today we are sharing a question that we have both heard out in the field from teachers and from administrators, which is, what are the implications for students actually trying to use AI for emotional support?
Yeah, that's a great question. We do hear it a lot, and we actually hear it from students as well. This has been something students have been trying to solve for a long time. And recently, 60 Minutes did a story about Woebot. And so this is a little different than the large language model AI that we've talked about. This is a rules-based model AI. There's lots of different ways that AI works, but in a rules-based model, there's lots and lots of predetermined content. So the AI is predictable. What the response is going to be about an emotional or mental health question will be determined by all of these rules. So you really know what the answer is going to be. On the other hand, when you use something like ChatGPT, there are no rules that the large language model is following. So when you ask an emotional question, it could go off the rails and give you answers that actually aren't helpful. So when we're talking about mental health and something as serious as mental health and getting advice, we really want to make sure that all those guardrails are there. So that's why using something that is rules-based is a lot safer.
Yeah, safer, but generally people say boring, right? Because it's predictable. And I've seen a couple studies about Woebot. I actually had a friend that worked there. And that's a challenge. Like, it just doesn't have that fresh human-like quality that is part of the seemingly magical essence of generative AI. I mean, I think you're right. There are guardrails in generative AI. It knows not to be racist. It knows not to be sexist. It tries not to be self-harming. But I recall there was a story from not too long ago regarding the National Eating Disorders Association. They lit up a version of a generative AI bot called Tessa. And unfortunately, Tessa gave some advice as folks kind of chatted with it and had a natural conversation about stuff they were struggling with, but it wound up being harmful to them, and they had to take it down pretty quickly and correct for that.
Using AI for mental health is so interesting because it breaks down a lot of the barriers that we are finding in mental health, like just the access to get mental health help is a huge barrier. The stigma around actually going to a therapist is a barrier. And having that access, not just being able to make an appointment, but being able to access a therapist in the moment when you're feeling anxiety or feeling depressed or are at risk for harm, you need that therapist now, not when you can get an appointment next Wednesday at 3:00 when you might be feeling great. So the access and being able to have it on your phone is really, really attractive. And I think when we talked with students about it, they've said the same thing. They want to be able to ask somebody in the moment. And so what they're doing is asking their peers. And that is not the same as asking a counselor.
I mean, at some level, we can have all the opinions we want, but the students are going to go where they want to go. When they light up Instagram, as we talked about earlier, and now they have this full-fledged chatbot that feels human-like is going to have a conversation with them, I think that it's incumbent upon schools and teachers to help them understand the potential risks. But let's see what our buddy Lee from Australia has to say.
That's an insightful question about the potential implications of students using AI for emotional support. While AI chatbots can provide a level of conversation, it's important to remember that they are not a substitute for real human connection and support. AI does not have true emotional intelligence or the lived experience to provide the depth of understanding that human counselors, teachers, parents, and peers can offer.
Well, thanks, Lee. And as we think about the original question, as far as the implications of students using AI for mental health support, I think our guidelines would be they're going to use it and they're going to try it, and they just have to be really careful. And we have to teach students how to be cautious and understand, again, that it is a large language model. It isn't a real person, but it can be helpful and a bridge.
Yeah, helpful and a bridge. I like that. And it's going to move quickly. This will freak people out, but I just saw a study saying that ChatGPT in some cases outperforms human psychologists on tests of social intelligence. These are all text-based, like a A/B test, where you're looking at a text response from a human being. They're talking about an area where they feel vulnerable. They're giving signals about their emotional well-being. And then a human therapist responds over text, or ChatGPT responds over text, and the ChatGPT scores were much higher for understanding the emotional dilemma the individual is facing and providing helpful and thoughtful feedback. And this is a peer-reviewed study, and we're seeing more and more of these. And actually, the next couple episodes, we're going to be talking about how we may have to reinvent some of the benchmarks because AI is performing so significantly. But yes, I agree. For now, got to help them. It may be a bridge, and we need to help ourselves and students be thoughtful about how they do this. Liz, thanks for being such a great partner in this podcast. I've had lots of nice feedback. I know you have as well. And folks can tell that we've known each other for many years, and we actually like each other. And while we don't always agree, we clearly value each other's opinion.
And our amazing listeners, we have breaking news. Ahmed, roll the breaking news music. Near the end of the academic year, ChatEDU is going to test out a weekly schedule for a period of time.
Yes, we will, and we'll experiment with some different formats over the summer. Summer.
So can we do it? Do we have the stamina? We shall see. But if you have an opinion, please let us know at chatedu@edadvance.org. So in this episode, we got an update on where we are with AI content detectors and the implications for academic integrity. Then we looked at a cool new AI-powered exhibit from the National World War II Museum. Following that, we discussed holographics and how AI might revolutionize how we interact with the digital world. And in the news, we explored how PISA is shifting our focus to AI assessments. Then we went beneath the surface to look at how critical thinking will need to become a power skill as advertising begins to creep its way into AI platforms. And finally, we took a look at generative AI and mental health for students.
ChatEDU is brought to you by EdAdvance, the nonprofit regional education service center in Litchfield, Connecticut. ChatEDU is recorded, edited, and produced by Ahmed Malik, whose dedication and expertise bring our discussions to life. As we move to our trial weekly schedule this spring, ChatEDU is beyond excited to welcome Cameron Audio to the pod in the new role of executive producer. Additionally, we're grateful for the support of our colleague Gary Robinson. Gary is the ChatEDU Design and Outreach Ginsu Knife, and we're appreciative of his time and talents. And of course, a big ChatEDU shout out to our fearless leader and incoming executive director, Jonathan Costa, for inspiring the pod. And finally, a heartfelt thank you to all our listeners for joining us on this journey, exploring the thoughtful and innovative integration of AI in education. See you next time.
Bye.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Jonathan Costa. I'm the Assistant Executive Director at EdAdvance. I want to thank you for listening to ChatEDU, our podcast that examines critical issues regarding the application of artificial intelligence in the pre-K-12 learning space. New episodes will drop every 2 weeks throughout the rest of this school year. We appreciate your interest in ChatEDU.